The saga of Venom Inc. continues in the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 793. So as we left off in the last issue, we saw that Spider-Man was now one under the control of Maniac, aka Lee, who of course now is taking pieces of his symbiote and spreading it around to be able to control a large part of the New York underworld crime. As we get into this comic, we see Spidey is in full-on bad guy effect, as he's actually robbing a truck full of supplies and leaving the bad guys out here. Over with our, I guess, villain of the story, Lee, we see that he has Agent Anti-Venom tied to a conveyor belt, and he's going to literally melt everything off of him and put Flash Thompson out of the living world, along with his symbiote. Unfortunately, this plan is foiled by Mania, who we first saw that she actually lost her symbiote, and that's the one that Lee took. She's here right at the perfect time. She comes jumping down, beating up the bad guys, able to save Flash from certain death. As the comic keeps going, we see that Venom is actually back at Alchemax, and this time he comes along with Black Cat. They're here for a very particular reason. Over on the other side of that, we catch up with Spider-Man, who's talking to Lee, and he's getting a little mouthy, but everything's kind of going okay. As it turns out, they've been trying to get the attention of the Black Cat and draw her out. So Spider-Man has actually been hitting all of her convoys and stealing all of her supplies, which the Daily Bugle is now putting out there as Spidey crimes, but they don't fully believe it. Over with Black Cat, back at Alchemax, we see that they more or less want to now weaponize that actual serum that was being used on Agent Venom, which of course turned him into the Agent Anti-Venom. Boy, this is getting confusing. Anyways, back at the Bugle, Spidey breaks in. Robbie Robertson is actually able to figure out that this isn't Spider-Man. It just so happens to be a mask that's on him, and he's kind of looking at it going, yeah, this isn't really you. I can tell that you're just a bad guy, so we're gonna hold off on that. Spidey tries to really push them to publish a story about Black Cat and Felicia Hardy to draw her out, but that's when Flash Thompson actually shows up, and the two get into a giant fight in the snowy wasteland that is New York. And the fight is pretty good, and then they're actually joined by Black Cat and Venom. And all of them, once Spidey is actually able to be pulled back from that Venom symbiote, is kind of just agreeing to work with them. They're all going to start working together and try to help each other to stop Lee. And speaking of Lee, as the comic ends, we see that he's literally going to turn a giant section of the Mafia all into his own personal Venom symbiote army. Venom Inc. number 4 was a really fun issue. I would say this one definitely picks up the pace and starts moving this series towards what you can feasibly see is some sort of end goal. Now whether you like this one or not a whole lot, it's going to depend on how much you like action and a little story. But I think the action is good on building up for what's been established in the previous issues, which this was definitely something that they needed in this one, and I feel that they deliver on it. Art is great, and I really enjoyed this one. 8 out of 10.